Well, I spent a few moments talking about a book that has impacted civilization and not in a positive direction. Ideas of Consequences. The idea encapsulated in this book is grave indeed for the 21st century. The book was written a long time ago, 1871, titled The Descent of Man. The author, Charles Darwin. And reading The Descent of Man forces you and I to come to grips with an unpleasant reality. And that is, if everything Darwin wrote in his magnum opus on the origin of species by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life, then it follows logically that civilized people must make certain that the fit breed with abandon and the unfit do not indefinitely survive. And while that might sound immoral to some, one must remember that Darwin believed that morality was neither natural nor God-given, but rather that morality is an offshoot of natural selection. Let me put it another way. Evolution is driven by competition, and competition, well, it brings extinction. And thus, Darwin wrote in Descent that at some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will exterminate and replace the savage races. Darwin has the Caucasian race on top, and then on the bottom, dangling at the edge of humanity, the Negro or Australian, who are, in his view, an evolutionary hair's breadth away from, hard to say this, but from the gorilla. And to help evolution along is the science of eugenics. This is applied effectively by the Nazis, but also, tragically, by American educators. Take, for example, George William Hunter's famed textbook, A Civic Biology. It was a high school biology text that overtly pointed to the improvement of man. If the stock of domesticated animals can be improved, well, it's not unfair to ask if the health and vigor of future generations of men and women might not be improved by applying the laws of selection. The unfit should not be helped, they ought to be exterminated. Why? Well, it's because those who are not well born, they take from society and give nothing in return. Therefore, they're parasites. And thus, the remedy, says Hunter, in this high school textbook, the remedy would be to kill them off. While society at present will not allow this, he went on to say, we do have the remedy of separating such dregs of society in asylums or other places, thus preventing such degenerate people from propagating. Remedies of this sort, he went on to say, have been tried successfully in Europe, and they're now meeting with success in this country. Hunter's book ought to be familiar to you because it was made famous by the infamous Scopes trial of 1925. In fact, as Benjamin Wiker points out, it was the pro-evolution textbook that the forces of progress led by the famous lawyer Clarence Darrow defended against the class of stupid people. Who are those stupid people? Well, the people led by Christian William Jennings Bryan. One wonders why that tidbit didn't make it into the cinematic propaganda piece Inherit the Wind. Instead, the evolutionary eugenics paradigm, well, it's touted as benevolently intellectual, while Christians are being portrayed as bigoted ignoramuses. This is a tragedy in human history, a tragedy that unfortunately many people have forgotten about. And if we forget our history, we're inevitably resigned to repeat it. This is one of the reasons that I wanted you to know about the book written by Benjamin Wiker, 10 Books That Screwed Up the World, the subtitle, and 5 others that didn't help. I found this extraordinarily helpful, eminently readable, in a book you ought to have in your library. You can get your copy for your support of the ministry of the Christian Research Institute, the Bible Answer Man broadcast, our outreaches around the world. Check it out on the web, equip.org, or simply write me at Post Office Box 8500, Charlotte, North Carolina, zip code 28271. Thanks for tuning in to the important video series that we have been running through our ministry. You can find most of them at equip.org, YouTube, or wherever videos are consumed.